Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Since the beginning of board games, there has been the board for the game. These things range everywhere from the beautiful to the functional. They can tell stories, but they should always be the central focus to a board game. You want the vision to go there. Everyone will have their player board, their hand of cards, but at the end of the day, everyone's focus should be on the board. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rate the top 5 best board game boards of all time. Caveat, only the ones that I own. Now, there are a couple of rules here that we should be made aware of. First things first, any board that is made with cards is out. Your game has to have a dedicated board. Second, it cannot be made of tiles. So, for example, your Twilight Imperium, your Mansions of Madness, unless those tiles go on a board. Also, the board has to be the main focus. If your board is simply there to house cards and that's it, and the focus is on your own player board or your own cards or something else, if it's like a player mat, that kind of thing where it houses the cards, we're not going to be dealing with that. We are going to be dealing strictly with board game boards. So ladies and gentlemen, join me now as we go through the top 5 best board games in boarding. No, best 5 best boards in board gaming. Huh? First up, I wanted to highlight one of the underappreciated gems of board gaming. So for example, the story that a board can tell. You'll see these a lot with your Uwe Rosenberg games where they'll have little people doing little things on the side. These are things like your Stone Age where you have the people hunting, fighting for bears, and little details that the longer you look at the board, the more that you see. Now, while all of those are fine examples, I think the best example of a board telling a story is Dungeon Pets. This is a game which is a worker placement game in which you and some people are basically selling pets and buying pets and that kind of thing. And the longer you look at this board, the weirder and weirder it gets. This board is functional, of course, and all of these games are going to be something, but this one, I think, tells the best story. Let's take a closer look at the magic. So over here we have people actually playing Dungeon Pets. That's amazing. No, they're not. They're playing Dungeon Lords. So over here we have a group of little gremlins playing Dungeon Lords. We have people down here, people burying a sign, people riding the stuff, going up and down. This guy's in traction. Over here is where the food is, and they're sawing the gate, and there's all kinds of little bitty things. There's a little person sunbathing up here. Isn't that silly? This is just one of those games where the board, it's not big. You don't have to have a big board, but the focus and while everyone's looking at it and waiting for their turn, and oh, what action do I want to do? They start to notice little details. And oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. And the little auctioneer over here telling the thing. It just tells a fun story about all of these little goblins and just the magic is wonderful. So the best board game that tells a story goes to Dungeon Pets. All right, and while telling a story may be good for some, at the end of the day, you need that board to serve a purpose. Next, we're going to take a look at the functionality of a board. So this is the board where everything has its place. This could be things like Yedo, where everything has a place on the board. It can be a little cluttering on that one. Or things like Abyss, where everything on the board has a spot and everything is perfectly laid out. Or things like Fog of Love, which also is very functional. It has a place where everything goes. And that's really where these kind of boards falter, is that when you start focusing on function, you start losing flavor. But there's one board that I think goes above and beyond and provides all of that function and a full, robust flavor. For me, the best board game that really drives home functionality, and God knows it needs it, is the beautiful board that belongs to the OG Robinson Crusoe. Now this is a functional board. Over here we have the place where the tiles will go. Up here we have the round markers, and there's information all over here. This is where your cards will go. These are where the cards are drawn. This up here is indicators about how much shelter you need and how your food is. Everything is going on this board, and everything is laid out to the point where not only is it beautiful, look at this, it's on a table and the map is folding and everything is pinned to it. It gives you information, it walks you through, so boop, 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 boop. And it's just a very beautiful and functional board. And for my time and money, I think this is the most beautiful, functional board in all of board gaming. Next up, we have what is affectionately known as the grid. When you look at the back of a box and you see that it's just a grid on a board, you're like, I don't think that's gonna tickle a pickle, as they say. That looks like it's gonna be boring. I hope there's something good to do with that grid. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your games like Chinatown, that is just a grid full of numbers. These are your games like Trains, where it's just a octagonal grid. Australia. Or it can be sports games like Battle Ball and Blitz Bowl. But at the end of the day, you really want that grid that can just give you something more. Now, grids are usually a place to put people or tiles in, and we saw that Robinson Crusoe had tiles, and all of these kind of share those qualities. But I think the board that has the best board for a grid, and a great reason for that, is kind of an odd choice. It's a game that I haven't talked about yet on this channel, but let me introduce you to a phenomenal grid from the game Terror Below. Now, this board is awesome. Look at this. It's like a little chocolate thing. And on this board, there's your grid right there. And every one of these grids, you're going to be moving a little thing around and trying to kill monsters. And they got a little bit of functionality up top and down below that you need. And over here, we have a dual side. But the fact that the board is not just square. And when you look at this grid, it's not just a perfect square like a chessboard. It's angled to the point where it's got some depth to it. And it's just really, really neat. And I think this is one of the best grids in a medium that is notorious for it, from your checkers to your chess to your Go and everything in between. But I think the best grid board goes to a game that did something a little bit different than the rest. Terror Below is a great game, but we're not talking about that. But this board, every time I look at it, that's a cool looking board. Next up, we have your boards that are simply beautiful. It's a little bit of a grid, it's got some functionality to it, it tells a little bit of a story, but they're just stunning. You take a look at them, you take a look at a game like Everdell, you look at that board, you're like, wow, that's beautiful. You look at a board like Rising Sun and just all the detail and intricacies that went to it, and it's just beautiful. You take a look at a board like Nemo's War, and it's just beautiful. But there's one board that stands above all when it comes to sheer beauty. But it's not just beauty, it's got some bite to it as well. And I think if you've watched any videos on my channel, I think you know what's coming. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this gorgeous board for Takedo. It takes a concept that's normally a large rectangle, turns into a small one. There's our path. Everything is functional. We got victory points at the top. We got places for cards. We got places for everything. But it's just also the simplicity of it is stunning. You look at this game, it's one of those things where you bring to the table and you're like, oh, what are we playing? You plop down the board and everyone's like, all right, whatever. But then you go and you plop down this and you just lay it in front of everyone and instantly everyone's like, what the fuck is this? What are we going to be doing for the next 45 minutes? Whatever it is, this is where my focus is going to be. And it's also a little bit of a grid. So it's like a little bit of path and it's a little bit of a map. And I think it is hands down the most beautiful board from one of the most beautiful games ever. And that is something that you will not argue with. Because if you do, I mean, I guess you can. Man, it's pretty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we have focused on games that will be beautiful, like I have mentioned. We have focused on games that have a good grid, like I have mentioned. Games that are functional and beautiful, and games that tell a story. And all of these games kind of do everything. Everything does a little bit of everything. But I believe there is one board to rule them all. One ring to find them, and in the end, bind them. The most beautiful board is... I want to talk about the map. So the map is popularized in a lot of war games. Your Pandemic, where it's just the world. I already talked about Australia. It's just a map of Australia. If it's a game like the American Insurrection, it's just this big 8-foot-long fucking thing of everything where it's just a beautiful map, usually of a world or a place. This is a game also like your Chaos in the Old World, which is my only honorable mention here as a map that tells a story. And if anything, the second place would be Chaos in the Old World with its skin stretched across it, its functionality, and just everything, just a story that it tells. But there's only one board that I feel is the best, and I do not have the room to show it here. So let's get nitty and gritty and take a city. That's sit with a Y. 2 T's, maybe? I don't know. Now, the best board is functional, beautiful, little bit of a gritty system, I will say, and it tells a story. And the best board that does all of the above. Come get in on this. Ooh. Eldritch Horror. Look at this. What you've got is you've got a beautiful, functional board with a Doom tracker up top. It's got some chaos things. It's got some spots for cards and a legend and all these beautiful spots on here. And it's just wonderful. If you look at this, it looks like a map, and we have little bitty things like this little whirlpool right here. And oh wait, there's a little monster over here when you take a look at it. And it's beautiful. And if this board's not big enough for you, we got so many more boards that we can talk about. Oh my goodness, I got boards for days. So many extra boards, and this game is just wonderful. And a big part of that is the board. Now, it just screams that old, like 1930s Indiana Jonesy kind of everything. It's got some, it's got everything. I got a weird sort of kind of grid. I got function, I got beauty, I got that world map, and then more map if I want it. It's just phenomenal. I love it. It's great. This is hands down the best board in board gaming. I think I might need to make a video on this soon. I think it's about that time. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this adventure in board gaming and board gaming boards. Is there a board that I missed? A board from one of these games behind me or over there that you would rather see, that you think belongs on this list? Let me know in dim comments which board you agree with, and give me some of your favorite boards. My favorite part about board gaming is the boards. Are the boards? Am the boards. Ladies and gentlemen, wash your goddamn hands, wear a goddamn mask, go and vote. Peace out.